Alright, I'm going to do a new video from my car collection today, and this one is, as you can not tell, my Tamiya TRF102 Formula 1 chassis with a dangling wheel. And right now I'm using a prototype first press of a Lotus 7 or Donkervoort, as I prefer, that I did pretty recently. This was the first rough prototype. I'll show you the molds I've changed. I don't have this kind of wavy, wiggly, ugly stuff for the webbing here. Anyhow, this is what the cars look like at the moment. Pretty sweet. Oversized head, that is going to change, but that was the helmet that I had. Pretty rough, unfinished mold, but I can't get enough of Lotus 7s. I had this YRS Roadster from Yokomo on a 112 chassis, which is the only body I could find of some kind of a Lotus 7 or Donkervoort. So I had to have this one, but the YRS, I'll do a video about it, is a terrible car. So I like the body, pretty undrivable, pretty sad. So I decided to make my own. Let's see the chassis first of all, and then we'll talk a bit more about the body itself. So the TRF102 is one of those TRF chassis that I don't see that much on the track. I see an enormous amount of 103 since the 103 came out, and you see a lot of 104s, of course, but this one I seldom see it. It is not stuck. I've made a couple of mods to it. So yes, I broke a turnbuckle last time, so that's why this wheel is dangling. I gotta find a replacement that's the right length for it. So I'm using the right GR front and rear tires, which are great for where I'm running it. I am using my own 3D printed diffuser, which is pretty cool. I'm planning to do one in Lexan. Never mind. Planning to do one in Lexan at some point, but the 3D printed one never had a single breakage so far, so it's really good. I don't know what it does, but it looks good, so I'm keeping it. I'm running a 17.5 turn brushless motor, Exotech aluminum little I don't know what to call that, coolie stuffy on the top. I'm running an ESC at the rear here and the shorty lipo in the front. My diff is pretty stiff. I have the rear end is quite aggressive. That's the way I like to run it, and the suspension is extended a bit further to the front. The arm is a bit longer, and I'm using not too stiff but kind of progressive spring from a Nitro chassis. The ESC, by the way, is a Toro 120. And yeah, I've made those little 3D printed parts here in order just to keep the battery from moving left to right, because it doesn't have the support of the aluminum poles at the back anymore. This is actually, you see, I've made a little 3D printed mount for the ESC so it doesn't trouble the T-plate here. The T-plate can still bend and move freely without touching the ESC here. And yeah, I got my little chassis protector. And that's about it for this car. It's a really good F1 chassis. It's very well balanced. It's still competitive with all the other modern and more traditional F1 chassis that you find. Like I said, most people around here are going to be racing the Rush or the X-Ray. There's a lot of X-Rays and the Serpents, which are fairly... This one was cheap when I got it, because I think it was already out of print, but compared to the luxurious and expensive other cars, this one really holds its own. It's a great car. It's really well balanced. The way I'm running it, it's not for everyone. The weight balance, I know locally people put a lot more weight at the back than I do, but I guess I'm just matching my own driving style. And I think that's about it for that chassis. It's a, you know, it's an F1 chassis from Tamiya, so there ain't much things that are different from all the other Tamiya chassis. Especially this one is fairly conventional. Have a dampening tube in here. The one thing that breaks really often on this car is going to be the T-plate, so I'm running a really thick one. It's smoother on the softer one, but just tired of buying T-plates all the time. And this is still the original carbon reinforced front structure. I never had to replace that so far. Fingers crossed it keeps going. And yeah, this is really a quick car. Yeah, quick little car. One of my favorite chassis I have here. And the reason why I'm not running it as an F1 anymore is because I did a Lotus 7 original body. I used to run it with this one, with the free racing F113 large rear wing, and I forgot what spoiler I used to run in the front. But anyway, now I'm running the little Lotus 7 body set that I'm currently finishing, and that's going to be on the web store at some point. And let me show you how it is. First of all, it's in many parts due to the fact that the vacuum form that I'm using is small. It's an A4 bed, so I can't print anything. Even a 112 body is too big for the vacuum form that I'm using. But the way I've designed the different parts is really strong. So you'll see there is the cockpit here at the back of the driver's seats. The other seat is closed like it would be on the cup racers most of the time. I have this big roll cage at the back that is made of Lex, and you can see the mold is still really rough. I still have to work on it, but I'm still testing it around. And I'm hoping that the really straight angle I have at the back is gonna kind of act some downforce on the rear end. And so this way, you see, this is much sharper now than it is over here when it's really like melted cheese at the moment. And I don't have any webbing anymore, even on the very stiff angles. Like I have a little webbing here. And so on over there you would place a 1 cm large, 10 mm large double-sided tape, and here are the wheel wells for the back, which are thinner. It's a 0.5, it's super light, and so they would go directly on that, on the left and on the right. And this would be really unmovable once you have that amount of tape all around. And for the nose, for the front of the car, the bonnet and the front of the car, you would place similarly a really long 10 to 12 mm wide double-sided tape here. And then you have the bonnet piece, which is here. I get some little hole placement here for the 3D printed light buckets here that are designed to fit 5 mm LEDs inside. And then of course there will be the helmet sticking out from there with a little neck, but the scale being quite different from the F1 cars, I need to figure out, this is too big, it looks comical. So I gotta figure out the proper size for the helmet so it looks to scale with the rest of the car, because this would be probably closer to 1/9 scale than 1/10 scale if you put the Lotus to scale. I suppose I didn't actually check the dimensions. But so once everything is assembled, as you can see, the two parts are assembled here with the double-sided tape. This is not going anywhere. I mean, you can crash it, you can do whatever the heck you want. This seal is not going apart. It is a system that I came up with already on my B2B. Same reason, just due to the limitations I have with the size of the vacuum form. and so as you can tell, these have crashed a lot. It crashed to the point of decapitation. I've lost a head into a wall, but you see, even a hard crash over there, unmovable. The shapes and the amount of double-sided tape is just not going anywhere. So gonna be the same for that little guy. And for me personally, this is what used to be on my wall as a kid. It was a picture of a Donkervoort. I had no idea that the Donkervoort was based on the Lotus 7 because I was probably 8. And this has been my dream car forever. So to have one that looks like it done, that I can race on the track, I'm really happy with this. And I think overall it's really proper to have that on an F1 chassis. The F1 chassis fits really well. You have those large wheels, going to be a lot of tractions. The F1 car has a lot of traction. I'm working on a mini version. Almost fell down. Originally I did the more recent Donkervoort that have the open wheels in the front, but once it's on the chassis, it just doesn't work. So I'm building some wheel wells for the front. I'm thinking about building an optional wheel well in the something similar to that for the car as well. I might do it in the future once I'm happy with this. If I get any people ordering it, then I'll spend more time doing that for myself. I'd rather run it without, but if it's something someone like, just let's have a chat and see about it. And so that's my car for today, a TRF102 from Tamiya with a Donkervoort, aka Lotus 7 handmade body shell. Right, stay safe, soon we'll be deconfined and we can play. Bye bye.